want to thank you for joining us this morning on Magic Valley this morning, Bill Colley. It's 36 and 8:17 on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. I've been telling you, oh, golly, for the last few hours on the air, that there is possibly some movement that will be welcomed by certain people who own ranches in southern Idaho. Last week, during a committee hearing, U.S. Representative Raul Labrador from here in Idaho had a chance to talk to, well, one of his former counterparts who was then in Montana as the at-large representative from that state, is now serving as Secretary of the Interior, and that is Ryan Zinke. And it appears the government may be looking to, well, we don't want to say that there's massive deregulation going on, but maybe back off a little bit when it comes to ranchers in the West. First of all, Representative, welcome back to our program.
Hey, great to be on your show, Bill.
Ryan Zinke and you do have a long history, and he obviously understands issues of the West, having been a representative from Montana and from this part of the country. He believes that perhaps we've been a little too heavy-handed in when it comes to grazing cattle, as I understand it.
He does. After 8 years of an administration determined to restrict multiple use, it's really refreshing to have an Interior Department that listens to Idahoans and the American people. As you know, under Zinke, Interior is working to restore common sense land management in partnership with users and states and localities. Already the department has reformed a bunch of burdensome regulations. They have scaled back national monuments to reflect local concerns. They've also taken meaningful steps to rescind overreaching policies on sage-grouse habitat. And it's also working to boost our economy and advance American energy to conserve our lands and to expand outdoor access. In fact, last summer, I visited the Three Creek area in Owyhee County, where the impact of the Obama administration's hostility to multiple use hurt the agricultural economy and families that have helped care for rangelands for generations. So it's been good. It's been fascinating to have an administration that is so diametrically opposed to the previous administration when it comes to listening to the locals and trying to work with the local community.
Yeah, and I was reading this morning, I think it might have been in the Washington Examiner, where even over at the EPA, they're saying that they're going to be backing away from a lot of the politicized science. So you've got a lot of people in various departments now who I think are a lot more attuned to what goes on, at least in this part of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I question Zinke about two issues that usually don't get a lot of attention, but they're vital to the ranching families and rural economies in Idaho and the West. And, we have a misreading of the Bureau of Land Management by the Bureau of Land Management of law that has resulted in restricting access to grazing lands in Owyhee County. And the problem is that if these errors are not fixed, grazing on public lands could be harmed across Idaho and the entire West. And, the first problem is that the BLM misinterprets the Wilderness Act. Senator Mike Crapo recently joined me in sending a letter to Zinke about this issue. And I asked Secretary Zinke about it during the hearing, and he told me during the hearing that he believes that BLM's interpretation of congressional intent is wrong, and he said the department is giving the issue a thorough review. My second question to him was about the delay in renewing 68 grazing permits since 1997. Think about that. Since 1997, we've been waiting to get some grazing permits reissued. And, this group in Owyhee County is known as the Owyhee 68, and the BLM has repeatedly capitulated to these environmental groups that are detrimental to the ranchers. So Zinke told me that the Interior Department may have acted in bad faith in the past, and he will by slow rolling the applications, and he promised to work with me on this issue.
I want to remind those people who are tuning in this morning, if you're just joining us, we're joined by U.S. Representative Raul Labrador as well on Magic Valley this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Bill Colley with you too. We're at 36 at 8:22. I was chatting off air with some folks here in the building about this situation, and I know people in government have not condoned the actions we saw happen in the last half dozen years in Nevada and Oregon. But I think there's a recognition in Washington, maybe a growing recognition, that perhaps we wouldn't have those issues crop up if we actually had a better relationship with the people who actually do the business here.
Well, that's the issue is, obviously nobody condones violence or or violating the law. But the reality is there's a growing frustration with people in the West where they feel that the government is not listening to them, that they really don't have a voice, that the only people who have a voice are the environmentalist groups in Idaho and other areas, because they have a lot of money, they have a lot of clout, and they have the ear of too many representatives, even some who should call themselves conservatives. So it's important that these people feel that somebody's listening to them, and that's why, I always go out to the community, I talk to the people, and I try to do something about it. I try to be proactive in my approach working with the federal government.
You referenced the environmentalists, and I just thought, okay, there's going to be a Twitter storm now.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, they keep trying to take me out. So, I laugh when I read, so some of their comments. So that's okay.
You're appreciated by some people, though, as I understand it. You'll be getting an award that's upcoming from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has awarded me this year the Spirit of Enterprise Award for my support of pro-business issues during the first session of the 115th Congress. It's an award that reflects what we've been doing here in Congress. We've cut taxes, we've cut regulations, we've helped ease the burden on Obamacare, and we're just trying to do everything we can to continue to move forward and grow the economy. As you can tell, as you know, over the last year and a half, the economy has grown faster than it did under the Obama administration. We have more people employed. We have more issues that are happening. The only bad thing that's happened under this Congress, and I continue to oppose it, is that we, at the same time that we're doing good pro-business, and pro-growth policies, we're still spending too much money, and I will always continue to oppose additional spending and especially anything that adds to the deficit.
So, for a lot of people out there who are tuning in, and I know that sometimes you've been portrayed by, even in your own party, as being, you're not obviously a moderate, and we tend to.
I've never been accused of that.
Right, no. Right. We tend though to think of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It has an image that is a bit more what you might call moderate. So that was a bit of a surprise to me this morning.
Yeah. Well, I think the bills that they were looking at, they were looking at things that were pro-growth. I bet the Chamber of Commerce is going to disagree with me on this vote this week. We're looking at an omnibus bill that is going to increase the deficit and the debt by just an enormous amount, and I'm opposed to it. I think it's wrong for us. If you think about what we talked about during the 8 years of the Obama administration, is that he was being irresponsible by growing the debt and the deficit. And I think some people in my party have forgotten that we were the party of smaller government. And I think that's disappointing. So I'm pretty sure the Chamber won't agree with me on this vote.
Are we looking at a possible government shutdown at this point?
I don't think so, because unfortunately we have too many people that are willing to spend more right now. Because as you know, sometimes Republicans think it's okay to have deficits when Republicans are in power. I think it's wrong to have deficits no matter who's in power.
I was going to say, when I read last week that I think it was Stephen Dinan at the Washington Times said, we have seen over $1 trillion added to the national debt under President Trump. Now, some of that obviously is related to the tax cut and the notion it will generate revenue, but it's still a dangerous sign.
Well, it's a dangerous sign. And when you do tax policy, obviously the tax cut bill is not going to be a deficit-reducing bill. That's an impossibility. You don't reduce taxes, you don't reduce spending through tax cuts. But then you need to be responsible and make sure that your revenue, that your spending bill is a revenue, a deficit-reducing bill, and that's what we fail to do every single time. We passed the tax cut, which was tremendous. It's helped the economy. It's done all these wonderful things, but we should be doing the hard work now of looking at entitlement spending, looking at reforms, looking at things that will actually decrease the deficit. And my party right now is unwilling to do that, and I think that's very unfortunate.
I happened to see one of your colleagues from North Carolina on television last night talking about a Monmouth study that says 39% of Americans are disappointed in government, 22% are angry with government, 74% across party lines think the deep state is a dangerous thing. About a minute to go. Do you agree with that?
Oh, it is. It is. When you come here, that was the biggest surprise when I came to Washington, D.C. I had so many hopes and aspirations of changing the way Washington works. We had a huge class in 2010 of Tea Party freshmen, and the most amazing thing that I saw was within weeks, everybody changed who they were. We're not talking about months or years. Within weeks of being here in Washington, D.C., all these, members of Congress who said they were coming to Washington to change the way Washington worked, they decided to become part of the swamp. And it's been disappointing. And I think the power and the prestige that comes from being a member of Congress, people are more interested in getting reelected than really interested in making a difference. I haven't changed who I am. I've worked really hard. I'm very unpopular with some segments of my party, especially in party leadership, because I'm willing to tell them that they're doing the wrong things, and I'm willing to stand up to them. That's the one thing that I'm most proud of being here in Washington, is that I haven't changed. I am the same person who came here 8 years ago. Obviously, I'm more knowledgeable. I understand some of the issues better, but I didn't come here just for a job. I came here to make a difference, and I'm proud that I've been able to do that.
Well, U.S. Representative Raul Labrador, we thank you for your time this morning and look forward to chatting again sometime soon.
All right, thank you.
Take care, sir. Raul Labrador joining us this morning, and again, U.S. Representative from the 1st District here in Idaho. We're coming up on a break for, I was going to say news, but it's the 8:30 break, is just a little over a minute away, actually a little closer than that as I talk. I do a lot of that anyway, right? That's what they give me a paycheck for. We're at 36. Steve Millington is going to spend some time with us in the next half hour. He's the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party, and a lot to talk about because state legislative session is wrapping up in a few days, and a lot of legislation is going to be worked in a very short period of time, and if you blink, you'll miss it. So he'll have some details on that in just a short while. This is Magic Valley This Morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com.